Wisconsin Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, who sits on both the House Small Business Committee and the House Judiciary Committee, joins me. Nice to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Greta. Good to be with you.
First of all, let's talk about that bill that just passed. It's going to go to the president's desk for signature. I guess one of the key things I'm curious about, it says it's called the Inflation Reduction Act. We'll have to see what happens at midterms, whether it's made a dent in inflation or not, or that name could come back to haunt the president.
Yeah, they typically mislabel a lot of pieces of legislation that make their way through the House, but this may take the cake. Because it does everything but address inflation itself. And if you were down on the floor like I was today, listening to the arguments back and forth, it was really disheartening. Which, this started 2 weeks ago when we started to hear that Manchin was trying to actually negotiate some type of deal with Senator Schumer. And I think many of us were hopeful that there were some members of the House, more moderate members that are up for re-election in November, that might kind of just pause or pump the brakes and say, this is not something we need to be voting on right now. But unfortunately, just like every other piece that we've watched cross the House of Representatives, Speaker Pelosi rallied the troops and came up with the votes for it. But I think it's going to bite him in the end.
Well, normally I'd think, well, okay, you're a Republican, so naturally I would sort of expect that reaction. I have sort of expectations from Democrats on things and Republicans on another. But the Congressional Budget Office did a scoring of this, and they're supposed to be independent. And they went to the issue. One of the things they looked at precisely was the issue, and they said it would have a negligible, I think that was the word, impact on inflation. So I thought to myself, well, that probably wasn't a very good title. I mean, even if the prediction under the CBO is negligible. But anyway, that's me. All right, now I want to turn to the other big topic of the day. You are on the Judiciary Committee, House Judiciary Committee. In the event the House is won by the Republicans in the midterms, do you think that this whole investigation of Trump is going to come back to haunt the administration?
Oh, I do. Members of the Judiciary Committee, headed up by Ranking Member Jordan, there's a couple of letters that we fired out today, which I know typically kind of go out and you never really hear much about it. But this laid out kind of very specific questions about what is the AG up to, and then Director Wray as well with the FBI and some of the answers that we're seeking. So even with the press conference that was held yesterday, I mean, I still have a lot of questions. And you would know.
What's your main question?
Right now, why was there a year and a half delay before any action was taken? And then again, it's becoming clear that there was about, I think as you addressed earlier in your show, about a 4-day delay between when the warrant was actually served. So, until we see the full affidavit and get a handle on it, it's going to be difficult to know just exactly what they were up to.
Yeah, and unless they'd moved quickly, it seems like a subpoena would have been the right route to go. So that if you get a subpoena, you can object to it and go into court and fight with it and talk to the judge, saying that the seizure order is overbroad or whatever. But when you get a search warrant, it's usually they have to move fast because they think something's happening. But I don't know.
Right. I mean, the other thing for me is just, when you're dealing with part of the code 793, you're talking about espionage. I'm a former Army officer, so I've got a secret clearance. I've been in the SCIF as a member of Congress. This is very heavy stuff. And, so far it doesn't appear that they really have anything that rises to that level that they needed to take 30 agents and show up at the president's residency.
What? Well, they've got this whole long list. I've gone through and taken notes. Some of the things, are labeled miscellaneous secret documents, classified. But then there's some things that just like box labeled A24. I don't know what that means. It's a box labeled A30. So we need a whole lot more information on this one so we can figure out what happened or didn't happen. Anyway, Congressman, thank you, sir.
Good to be with you. Thanks, Greta.